Once again, the NFC South might be the most unpredictable division going into the offseason in 2025. Man, I got a lot to talk about. What's going on, guys? Dick's Report here, back with another video. Today I'm talking about the NFC South, a division that was won once again by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But could the other three teams catch up to them in 2025? Let's find out. Okay, I just have one thing to say to Atlanta's GM. Get a freaking pass rusher! Your pass rush was not good last year. You need pass rushers, okay? That is your number one need. This pass rush needs to be productive, okay? 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 Michael Penix is going to be the quarterback next year, so what happens with Kirk Cousins? Trade? Cut? What are they going to do with him? I'm not entirely sure, but do not expect him back on Atlanta's roster. There's too much money that he's taken up at this point. Which leads into my next thing. They're in the negatives with cap space. They have to free up cap room, and trading Kirk Cousins is probably the best way to do that. But who'd be willing to take on the contract? I'm not entirely sure, because we know how Kirk Cousins' time as Atlanta started ended before he was benched for Michael Penix. So it's a big decision to make, but the decision might already be there if there's not really a market for somebody like a Kirk Cousins. And I talked about pass rush. Matt Judon is a free agent. He was their top edge rusher last year. They need somebody that can get to the quarterback. Justin Simmons is a free agent. Been a solid safety for a long time in this league. So secondary is definitely another thing. You still have A.J. Terrell, but who else is there in that secondary besides him and Jesse Bates? They need some more help in that secondary. Lorenzo Carter's a free agent. Mike Hughes is a free agent. Richie Grant. Those were some other edge and secondary players that they're free agents, and what's Atlanta going to do there? And also, definitely want to get a center as well. Atlanta, there's a lot to do in free agency, but they make the right moves. They could be the ones to win this division, especially if Michael Penix has a big second year, which he showed some promise when he started. So maybe the Falcons did make the right decision at 8 overall. I don't know. I just know with this one, they need to get an edge rusher. They need something. They need someone to rush the passer, and I can say it till I'm blue in the face. So for Carolina, I think the best thing that we can say is that Bryce Young is the starting quarterback going into 2025. It looked like he was going to be one of the biggest draft busts in Panthers history when he lost his starting job, but then he gets it back. He plays solid football enough to where you think he can be a starting caliber quarterback in this league. Now he's going into the season as the bona fide number one guy. So how do you help him out? Get him another wide receiver. Xavier Leggett, I would expect him to take a big step in 2025, but bring in a guy that can either be the number one while Leggett is still learning, or bring somebody in that can teach Leggett how to be a number one receiver in this league, like a Keenan Allen or a Stephon Diggs. Hey, they've had success with guys from Maryland with DJ Moore. Why not bring in Diggs? As long as he checks out medically. But anyway, safety's also going to be a big need because Xavier Woods, Jordan Fuller, and Nick Scott are all free agents. So they're definitely going to have to reload in that safety room. At the edge position, they never really replaced Brian Burns, so definitely need somebody that can rush the passer. And defensive tackle, we know what happened with Derek Brown, and we hope that he's going to be back by week 1, but also has some depth there so that you're not pushing Brown. You don't have him trying to do everything at the defensive tackle position. Just make sure he has some depth there so that Brown can come back slowly to the form that he was before the injury. With Carolina, it's going to be a lot of just getting good players around Bryce Young and making sure that you can reload this defense. $24 million in cap space, it's not a lot, but you can make a move or two to where you can take a big step next year. Maybe even surprise some people. Hey, go out there, win the division. Hey, Carolina makes the right moves. Anything can happen. New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans. As always, you're in salary cap hell. Negative $52 million. Mickey Loomis, you are in for another heck of an offseason where you have to make a bunch of moves just to get under the cap, and you might not be able to make a lot of moves. Now, what do you do with your quarterback? Seriously, what are you going to do with Derek Carr? I know they're saying that They're expecting him to be the starter in 2025, but I just don't think he can go that route. Because for New Orleans, they cannot continue to think that they are contenders because they're just not. They need to do a rebuild, and I think we've all known that for the last 3 years, and it seems like New Orleans just doesn't think that they have to, that they can still make a run if they make the right moves. I just don't think that's the case. I think really with New Orleans, they need to take a step back and realize we got to start over, and I think it's going to start with just trying to offload Derek Carr's contract. I mean, they cannot continue to work with what's been going on with their salary cap situation. Now, edge rusher, they definitely need. All right, Peyton Turner and Chase Young are free agents, and Turner has been a disappointment as a first-round pick. And Chase Young, we know how immensely talented he is, but he just hasn't put it all together. Juwan Johnson is a free agent. That was one of their tight ends, so tight end's going to be a need. And wide receiver, we don't know what's going to happen with Chris Olave. Could he be traded? Could he not? And even if he isn't, who else is there in the receiver room that can help him out? Also, Willie Gay's going to be a free agent. Will Harris is a free agent. Lucas Patrick is a free agent. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a free agent. So, New Orleans, first they got to get under the salary cap, and then they can figure out what the next move is. But really, make a decision on Derek Carr right away. And again, I know they said that they're expecting to be the starter, but I know GMs lie all the time, right before the offseason. So could Loomis just pull one over on us, or do they really think Carr is going to be their starter next year? We're going to find out. Wow. Chris Godwin and Levante David could have played their last snaps as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And I know this happens all the time, but it's still weird. I just can't imagine Levante David in another uniform that's not a Bucs uniform, and then Chris Godwin. I mean, he has meant so much to this team, but it might be time for them to move on from him, for him to find another team. And it's a hard thing to say, but it might be the truth as well. And they have to free up cap space if they want to make some moves because they only have $4 million in cap space. And one of the top needs is going to be wide receiver. It's not only Chris Godwin that's a free agent. Sterling Shepard is also a free agent. And you have to factor in the fact that Mike Evans is starting to get up there in age. So Tampa Bay, they need to start figuring out the future of the wide receiver position. Maybe get some more young guns in that receiving core to take over when Mike Evans actually does move on, whether it's a retirement or whether it's for free agency. So really something to think about in the wide receiver room and at edge. And last few years they have lost the edge rushes that they have. I mean, Shaquille Barrett was a big one that the drop-off was big for Barrett, and definitely going to need some more players at the edge position. And then linebacker, they have to replace Levante David. I mean, like I said, David has meant so much to this team. He's been there for so long, but you do have to think about replacing him at this point. So Tampa Bay, there are going to be veterans that they have to replace this offseason, next offseason, and maybe even the offseason after that. But if they can replace these guys with young, talented players, they are still going to be fighting for division titles. All right, guys, those were my thoughts on the NFC South. Next up, as always, is going to be the AFC West. Only 2 divisions left. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.